down. And watch, Charles Sears, he's on your left with Ironworks combo against your reigning and defending StarCityGames.com invitational champions, Brian Coval, playing Black White Smallpox. He's going to start things off the Dark Steel Citadel, a chromatic sphere. And away we go in round number 3. Shambling Vent is what Brian will play. For Charles, he'll draw a card. See what his second turn of round number 3 yields. Looks like he picked up a copy of, make sure I get this one right. I don't think it's Ichor Wellspring. It looks like it was a Prophetic Prism, but we'll see here in just a moment. There's a Mind Stone. He'll pass the turn back. The land for the turn was a copy of Inventor's Fair as we go over to Brian Coval. Now, one of the things about Coval's deck, he's got plenty of discard. Thoughtseize, Collective Brutality, Inquisition, and Kozilek, and here is Inquisition. Charles wants to make sure he knows exactly what that does. Now we're going to show the hand. There's a Cart Clan Ironworks, a Mind Stone, an Ichor Wellspring, and an Academy Rune. So can't take KCI. Can take the other things, though.
Yeah, the Cart Clan Ironworks is the most important card for this deck. It has so many cantripping effects. You went through a lot of them, the Chromatic Sphere, the Chromatic Star, the Ichor Wellspring, the Mind Stones, the Terrarians. You know, that's a lot of cards that just churn through your deck, which helps you both find the Ironworks, and when the Ironworks is on the board, they create mana and provide you additional cards.
You talked about it right at the top. Discard is an effective way to attack almost any deck in Modern, just because it is such a nice catch-all. So that's what that Thoughtseize allows Brian to do. He takes KCI out of Charles Sears' hand. Now all of a sudden, Charles Sears' hand is pretty bad. Doesn't have a lot going on, and his draw step was never cool. So even worse.
Even worse?
Yeah, maybe the worst.
Name a card that's better than Emrakul.
Academy Ruins will allow Charles to buy back KCI at some point in this game, so it is good that he has that in his hand at least.
Well, and he has the Inventor's Fair gaining life and potentially tutoring at some point.
Mind Stone going to come on down, and we're going to go back over to Brian Coval. See what he wants to do this turn. He'll play Plains. He's got 3 mana. And he's going to play a copy of Smallpox, and it looks like he's doing a little bit of floating of mana.
Sure, it looks like he wants to sacrifice the Plains.
Yeah. And it looks like Sears has just 1 card in his hand left, which is that Emrakul.
Yeah, he has the option to keep it around if he wants to crack a Mind Stone or the Chromatic Artifact in play. Which one is this? That's the Sphere?
That's the Sphere.
Yeah.
That's the Sphere. Little cheat code here, just so you know.
The Sphere has a Sphere on it?
That's correct. That's my cheat code every time.
Yeah.
Take a look at the artwork, because I don't want to mix up the star and the sphere. And one of them has a star, and one of them has a sphere.
Man, Wizards is just...
Hey, that's just coverage cheating. That's coverage cheating 101.
They're helping us out. They know what they're doing. I appreciate that.
For those of you aspiring to work in your coverage game, you're not sure which chromatic piece that is, just look at the artwork. Big circle. Ichor Wellspring is going to go on top.
And this is a little bit funny because if he discards the Emrakul, it's going to get shuffled away.
So what he put on top doesn't even really matter all that much. And he's also got to sacrifice a land as part of resolving Smallpox. So he's going to sacrifice, he's not sure. Look at maybe Dark Steel Citadel. Looks like he might be. I wouldn't sacrifice that Academy Ruins. That seems pretty good. There we go. He's going to sacrifice the Dark Steel Citadel. So now none of it matters. Now, unless the only thing that would change it if he didn't discard Emrakul.
Yep.
So now he activated Academy Ruins, all that good stuff.
But the important thing here is actually he has 4 lands in play, and I believe he drew an Ironworks off of his Sphere cycle.
Well, then he's doing pretty good as Charles Sears as he draws a card. And he did pick up a copy of KCI.
And once that's in play, it's pretty safe against the Smallpox deck.
Yeah, you just got to put it on the battlefield. Against the Black-White deck, they do not have a way to get it off of the battlefield. Now, I take it back. 2 copies of Cast Out.
Yep.
Means that Brian does have an out, but it's safer on the battlefield than in play because of discard spells.
Yes.
There's another Ichor Wellspring, so Charles will draw another card, and now he'll pass the turn back. Let's go over to Brian Coval, who's got another copy of Smallpox in hand, by the way. And he's going to play it.
Yeah, and if Charles takes a couple of turns to draw another land here, you know, he won't be able to deploy that KCI. It's one of the reasons that I liked getting it on the board last turn.
Charles got to decide if he wants to lose Ichor Wellspring or Academy Ruins here. Academy Ruins is going to bite the dust. And now there's a land in Urborg, which is going to get back Bloodghast. Oh, the synergies.
now Brian has his clock going.
He sure does. They're going to go over to Charles. He'll draw a card.
10 turns from now, sir.
Yeah, maybe. Well, he's got Inventor's Fair going, too, so we got a long way to go.
Sure.
He's going to be gaining some life. And now there's a Krark Clan Ironworks for Charles Sears. He'll pass the turn back for now. Looks like next turn might be the go-off turn, as here comes Bloodghast. Charles is going to fall down to 18, and Brian will pass the turn back, hoping that he's not dead, which I would be surprised if he lives.
Yeah, there's a good chance he just dies here.
Now, Krark Clan Ironworks, a card we'll take a look at for those who do not remember what it does, or if you didn't play during 5th Dawn back in 04, sack an artifact, add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool.
Pretty simple card.
Yeah. Definitely not trying to do anything broken. Totally fair.
Yeah, I appreciate it when a card like this gets printed where it's just very straightforward what you would do with the card.
Yeah.
You know, you just put in a deck, you get a little bit of value out of it.
So we're going to start by sacrificing Ichor Wellspring, 2 mana, and draw a card. Will Charles Sears. Let's do it again. Do it again. Up to 4. Mox Opal has been drawn. Metalcraft not hard to do. And I think he may have found old Scrap Trawler.
Yeah, and Mox Opal is one of the best ones with Scrap Trawler. It always makes sure that you're getting something back on the low end.
There is Scrap Trawler. Let's take a look. 3 mana, 3/2. When Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. So now there's Mox Opal. 1 mana floating currently. And Charles Sears should be doing pretty well here. Not sure if he's entirely off to the races. He's going to tap the Mox Opal for green. He'll sacrifice it to Krark Clan Ironworks. It's going to give him 2 more mana.
I think he is pretty close to off to the races, as you say. He can generate a lot of mana here, and then he can sacrifice that Inventor's Fair and go tutor up a second Scrap Trawler if he wants to.
Or a Hangerback Walker.
Or a Hangerback Walker. But the point is he's just going to cycle all of these cards in his graveyard over and over and over again, drawing additional cards, creating additional mana. And eventually he's going to find Emrakul, play the Emrakul,
get another turn,
take an extra turn, and Brian Coval will not be long for the world after that.
Here's an Ancient Stirrings from Charles Sears. Keep in mind, I do not believe Charles has played a land for the turn, but he's going to get a Chromatic Star off of the Ancient Stirrings. Now he's got a bunch of mana floating, 6 colorless and a green. So now he can pay a mana to play the star, so he's going to fall down to 5. Yeah, there we go. You don't get mana for playing Chromatic Star.
Well, he's going to cash it in.
He'll cash it in.
He's just shortcutting.
Yep. He's going to get Mox Opal back. So now he's up to 7. Play the Mox. He draws a card from the star, of course. Play the Mox, add another green. Sacrifice that, get some more mana. So he's up to 9 colorless and 2 green, 11 total. He will sacrifice a Mind Stone to draw a card and get back a star because it costs less than the Mind Stone. Draw a card. Now he'll play a star, which will cost a mana. So down to 7, up to 9. Draw a card. So you get it? Do you get it?
Keep going, Cedric.
Do you get it?
I don't understand exactly.
Gonna get back Mox Opal. We've seen this song and dance before, so some more mana. So that is Terrarion. Yep. Sacrifice that. Get 2 mana. Get back Mox Opal. That's a new take on Terrarion artwork. But when Terrarion is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. There's the battlefield tapped. But it also adds 2 mana of any color as opposed to the 1 that Chromatic Star does. So they're a little bit different, even though what they're trying to do in this deck is basically the same. Chromatic Star is going to come on back. Charles Sears is going to draw a card. He'll play the Mox. At this point, I don't want to say he's got infinite mana, but let's call it pretty darn
Yeah,
close.
piles and piles of mana, and he's got so many cards, and he's still looping so many cards that his fail rate is going to be very, very low. And if I was Brian Coval, I'd probably just concede out of sheer boredom.
Save some time, maybe.
It's just like, hey man, like you showed up with this deck that takes the 10-minute turn.
Well, the thing is, at this point, it is very unlikely that Charles Sears fails.
Yes.
It could happen. Not saying it couldn't, but the likelihood of that happening very low. Now, Coval's going to make him go through it, which I don't have much of a problem with.
A lot of times the first game you make him go through it.
Absolutely.
The second game, you just give it to him.
Yeah. Let's make sure you know exactly how your deck works. Now, Inventor's Fair is going to go active. We can take a look at Inventor's Fair, because Charles Sears is going to search up an artifact. I'm curious to see which one it's going to be. He's going to get himself a Mirror Retriever. So Inventor's Fair, you see that, sacrifice it for 4 mana, tap, sacrifice it, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Activate it only if you control 3 or more artifacts, which this deck generally does. So Mirror Retriever here, 1/1, 2 mana. When Mirror Retriever is put into a grave from play, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So there's your infinite mana.
Yes.
That's easy. And then he can basically do whatever he wants at that point. Brian Coval knows that, and he will concede the game. So Charles Sears is going to win game number 1 here over Brian Coval. Ironworks combo takes a very long turn, but it is up a game here over Black-White Smallpox.
Whew. Is the Ironworks combo deck kind of like the commander player that no one wants to play against?
Yes, that is a great way to look at things. Just, you're over here, everyone's trying to play a fun game of Commander.
Yeah, everyone shows up with their dragon decks or whatever, all their ramp spells, and someone's just like, yeah, I have all the combos.
Yeah, I'm playing Baral.
And Chalice of the Void, and whatever else, like the anti-fun deck.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I don't know, maybe some of those cards are banned.
And then everyone's like, I'm going to try to kill you first, and then they can't.
Yeah.
They can't kill him fast enough. We'll start with Brian Coval on his sideboard of 4 Leyline of the Void. Goodness matchup. 4 Fulminator Mage, 2 Damnation, 2 Kalitas Trader. We've got 2 Stony Silence and a Liliana Last Hope. He doesn't have a ton of cards, but he's got some good ones.
I actually think it is a ton of, like, anytime you can bring in 6 sideboard cards in Modern, that counts as a ton of cards. Because Modern's such a diverse format, it's hard to have good cards against everyone. But Leyline of the Void and Stony Silence are both all-stars here. And it's very possible he brings in these Fulminator Mages as well, just try to keep his opponent off of lands. So that is a lot of options that he has. He could bring in 10 cards here if he wanted to.
Let's go over to Charles Sears, who's got 3 Blood Moon, 3 Nature's Claim, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Now Spellbomb, 2 Defense Grid. Let's see, a Tezzeret Agent of Bolas, a Gearpow Aether Grid, and a Battle at SCGRICH.
Yeah, this is a little bit interesting. I like this Gearpow Aether Grid just as a backup plan here. If the opponent goes after your graveyard, that's going to be a good one to have. The Nature's Claim, you're playing against a black-white deck. You know that they're going to have some sort of super powerful hate against you, whether it's Leyline of the Void, whether it's Stony Silence. It's probably not going to be Rest in Peace just because he's playing some of his own graveyard cards, but you know you're going to have to get some of these cards off of the board. So you definitely bring in the Nature's Claim in this matchup.
Well, there are your options there for both players. Your invitational champion, Brian Gold, will be on the play here for game number 2. And look at that. Look at that beautiful Monk token that he earned. His likeness on a card. He also walked out of the invitational with, $10,000 and an invite to the Pro Tour and a whole bunch of other stuff. But this may have been the most important piece of the puzzle there for Brian Coval. He's a big fan of vintage. He loves Monastery Mentor. And so he made himself a Monk token. A couple of ways to get this beautiful Monk token, because it is available now. It is available for all of our open participants, all of our classic participants who play on Sundays here on the SCG Tour, and in all orders from StarCityGames.com, $5 or more. Congratulations to our invitational champion, Brian Coval, on that very impressive Season 1 invitational win in Roanoke, Virginia, back in late June, early July. And we'll see if he can tie things up here against Charles Sears and his Ironworks combo deck, or as you called it, the unfriendly commander player.
I wonder if he talked to the artist about the mocks that he's wearing in the artwork. Mm-hmm. He's wearing that mock sapphire. I love it. All the nostalgia there, throwback. But I think I would have had all of them. I would have just been decked out.
Oh, just full bling?
Draped in them.
Okay, just all 5. Well, there's more than 5
I was about to say, I'd have the Mox Opal, the Mox Diamond, just everything. Just dripping in jewels.
How about the Glee Mox? Would that be in there too?
All
of them?
Give me
Nice.
everything.
Okay, all the Moxes. You're like Thanos with the rings. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Come on. The Infinity Stones. Excuse me. I don't want to throw away my nerd cred here. Sorry.
Apparently, you already did.
The Infinity Stones. That's what you'd be like. You just have them all. Look, Craig. How are we gonna watch the Winter Soldier yesterday, and then you not know what I'm talking about?
What happened at the end of the Winter Soldier?
Well, he Well, you're trying to set a trap here for me, I think.
You just fell asleep, so.
Well, no, that's nothing to do with the movie. That's nothing to do with the movie. I was tired. I had a cross-country flight yesterday. Nothing to do with the movie. I think that's like my second or third favorite superhero movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like Civil War. I like that movie, and I like X-Men First Class.
It's funny because I flipped just a couple of channels, and we ended up with Batman Begins.
Which I've never seen beginning to end.
That's a very good movie.
Well, I will get around to it at some point. I will. It's just, like I've seen the second one and the third one, and the first one, I don't know. I never really got into it when I watched it for some reason. I don't know why. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just, I'll get around to it. It's no big deal. Thoughtseize here from Mr. Coval. Take a look at Charles Sears' opening hand. You got a Nature's Claim, an Ancient Grudge, an Ancient Stirrings, a Carkline Ironworks, Darksteel Citadel, an Ichor Wellspring, an Engineered Explosives, and a Chromatic Sphere. It's a sphere, see, because it's got a big circle on it.
Now I understand.
You get it?
The cheat code.
You get it.
Cheat code revealed.
That's right.
Now looking at this hand, it's kind of interesting. Like you almost always want to take the Ironworks. That's their big payoff card. Mm-hmm. But looking at this hand, he only has one mana. It's a colorless source. He's leaning heavily on, cycling through his deck here. I think you might just want to take the Sphere out of this hand as his only colored source and as a cycler.
Well, it depends on what Brian's got, right? Because if he has Stony Silence, then you just take the Nature's Claim.
Sure.
Most likely.
Sure.
But he's going to take the Sphere with the Thoughtseize and obviously draw a Sphere.
But yeah, why wouldn't he?
That's how discard spells work. Now here's a Fetid Heath, and let's do a little Smallpoxing.
No, that's a real good one.
That is a good one because Charles Sears does not have another land in his hand, at least not yet. So he's going to have to choose what card he wants to discard, Will Sears. And Brian will have to, of course, do the same, but I think Brian has a Bloodghast in hand, so it's going to be an easy decision for him. Brian's going to lose his Fetid Heath. He will discard a Bloodghast. And everything is working here for our Smallpox player. Sears will draw. He has not drawn a land, so he will simply pass the turn back. Brian will draw. Looks like he may have a Flagstones of Trocare, but he's going to play a Godless Shrine, get back his Bloodghast, and he will simply pass the turn back over to Sears. Sears picks up a Chromatic Star. No good there as we head back over to Coval.
What a tease.
In for 2. And now a Lingering Souls. I was going to say the Bloodghast isn't the fastest clock, and Lingering Souls on its own isn't the fastest clock, but the 2 in combination, probably fast enough.
Yeah, they're starting to pick things up. This is kind of what the black-white Smallpox deck wants to do. There's lots of decks in Modern that just, they skimp on lands. Mm-hmm. They've got lots of ways to cycle, in a format where you're playing all the blue cantrips, street race, things like that. A lot of people cheating on lands, and hitting someone with Smallpox on turn 2 can be really punishing.
Chromatic Sphere will cycle. Picked up another copy of Nature's Claim. Now here's an Ancient Stirrings. So top 5 cards here for Sears. There is a Grove of the Burnwillows in there, a Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas as well. So another land, well, okay, we got one of those. But can he put together his deck and the combination of cards in time? Because Coval's starting to pressure the opponent here.
Yeah, this is not a crazy fast clock, but it's likely that the Lingering Souls will get flashed back again next turn. I mean, just the possibility of another Smallpox would be devastating.
Yeah, another Smallpox would be a huge draw here for Coval. Grove of the Burnwillows here from Sears. He's going to put these 4 cards to the bottom. Now pass the turn back. So we'll go over to Coval. He'll draw. Now, if we take a look at just some pretty simple math here, an attack here for 4 is going to bring Sears down to 13. Mm-hmm. As Brian's going to cycle a cast out. And then he flashes back Lingering Souls. And then it's an attack for 6 and 6.
Yep, 2-turn clock.
Actually, it's a 3-turn clock. That's the problem, right? Because now 6,
Oh,
down to 7,
oh,
down to 1. And I'm sure Coval would like to get this game over in 2 turns as opposed to 3.
Yeah, another smallpox would be the last point that he needs.
Or if he can find another copy of old Blood Gas.
Yeah, get that guy in there, aggressive.
So that could be maybe the turning point in this game, is if Sears is able to get one more turn out of this, because he's starting to find some lands, and of course he'll be able to cantrip a bunch as he plays an Ichor Wellspring. Picked up a Sanctum of Ugin. We already know he has Crocline Ironworks. Coval's draw steps, they need to be somewhat kind here.
Well, Charles Sears also has the line where he can blow up his own artifacts to gain life.
Yeah, with Nature's Claim.
With Nature's Claim.
Very true.
And he's happy to blow up a card like Ichor Wellspring.
This is an Inquisition of Kozilek. You see Crocline Ironworks, Chromatic Star. Brian very quickly takes Ancient Stirrings, along with 2 Nature's Claims, an Inventor's Fair, and a Sanctum of Ugin. So looks like he's going to record this information and write all these cards down. Again, they are Crocline Ironworks, Chromatic Star, 2 Nature's Claims, a Sanctum of Ugin, and an Inventor's Fair. On the battlefield here for Charles Sears, a Grove of the Burn Willows, a Darksteel Citadel, and that Ichor Wellspring that he played last turn. What he really needs? Thoughtseize. That's what he really needs. Take KCI. Looks to be the biggest problem to me. Here's that attack for 6, Sears down to 7. Fetid Heath passed that turn back. Let's go over to Sears. Man, don't target him with discard spells. It's like the Moto bug. Just don't target him with discard spells. He's just going to draw the card again.
Oh, don't get me started with Moto bugs.
It's just useless. It's 2 for 2. Take a card, draw it anyway. See it all the time.
Do you remember when Milliken was broken on Moto?
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
I found out about the Scarab God bug yesterday.
What happens with the Scarab God?
So I killed it and then exiled it with Scavenging Grounds, and it just went right back to my opponent's hand.
Sure.
And then I die to it.
Yep.
It's fine. Card's already unbeatable, and I can't remove from the graveyard. Here's the Ancient Stirrings. Top 5.
That's still a bug?
Well, apparently. It's okay. It's okay. One day at a time.
I told you, don't get me started.
I'm trying not to. I don't want you to get aggravated.
Distract me with this game.
Mox Opal is what we found here off an Ancient Stirrings. There's Inventor's Fair. There's a Mox. I'm telling you, if this was a 2-turn clock for Coval, he'd be able to maybe win the game next turn. He needs to find something here. There's a Chromatic Star, because he's in a world of trouble if he doesn't Thoughtseize away that KCI. He'll pass the turn back. We'll Sears over to Coval.
Yeah, I mean, things shook out pretty well for Brian this game. Charles missed a bunch of land drops, wasn't able to develop his board. He didn't have, a ramp mana artifact.
Now this is a way to turn up the heat. Soren's going to plus. So this is an attack for 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. Now a Nature's Claim, he can cast both of them actually. One via Mox Opal, second one by cycling the Sphere. Now, I'm curious if Sears knows this.
Sure.
Because this is a little bit unintuitive, that you can target your own stuff, but I want to give him some credit here. And I would probably go after my Darksteel Citadel. Yeah, because it doesn't die. Now, you can make an argument for wanting to go after Ichor Wellspring, but he might need that artifact on the battlefield for his Crocline Ironworks.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get that off the board at any point anyway. So might as well save it for when you're getting 2 mana out of it from the Ironworks.
Now he's going to sacrifice the Star for a green mana. And if once is nice, we'll do it twice. Citadel, why don't you die? Gain 4 more life. Go up to 15. So Coval's going to gain a bunch of life. That's all well and good, but that doesn't really matter all that much.
Well, and we were talking about how Coval needed that payoff card, so he got it. But Charles had gained 8 life that turn to stick around. Now the question is, can he muster a win out of what he has left to work with here?
And you see Charles tapping on his Inventor's Fair a little bit here, because I think he may have forgotten to gain the life with the upkeep trigger.
Yeah.
He does have 3 artifacts, the Wellspring, the Mox, and the Citadel. He did draw his card pretty quickly. So the situation is when you miss that trigger, you get to ask your opponent and say, hey, Brian, do you want to put this on the stack? And Brian's going to say, no, I do not. So a Sanctum of Ugin will be the land there that Charles Sears does play. he is going to tap 4 mana and play a Karkline Ironworks. And now it's time to find out if he can do this. Now, it looks like he actually has a copy of Scrap Trawler in hand. He'll sacrifice a Mox, 2 colorless mana. One of the things he's probably going to want to do is keep that Inventor's Fair untapped so that he can use it a little bit later in the turn. Terrarion is going to bring him down to 1 colorless mana, and there's a Mox. So no Scrap Trawler in hand. He'll tap the Mox for a green. He'll sacrifice the Mox. Going to go up to 3 colorless and 1 green mana. What's next here? He's going to sacrifice the Inventor's Fair because he does control some artifacts. It's time to get scrappy, maybe?
Yeah, definitely time to get scrappy here.
Looks like Charles Sears has done this a time or two with this deck. Pretty confident as he searches up that Scrap Trawler. Knew to leave that Inventor's Fair untapped.
1 p.m. standard. 1 p.m.
Yeah, and I expect him to cash in the Citadel and the Terrarion here.
Yeah, he's going to start with the Citadel. That's 2 colorless. Now he'll go to the Terrarion, just as you mentioned. That's 4, and he'll draw a card. Scrap Trawler going to come down to just 1 colorless floating.
Yeah, by leaving the most expensive artifact on the board for when the Scrap Trawler's in play, he gets to cascade on down his graveyard, so to speak.
So he sacrifices the Ichor Wellspring, gets a little bit of mana. Now he'll play a Chromatic Star. He'll sacrifice that. Going to get back the Mox. He's got 2 mana floating. Maybe he should have a little bit more than that, perhaps? They want to make sure that he's got the right mana floating because he had 1 left over. Sacrifice the Wellspring up to 3. Get the star back. That brings him down to 2. Yeah, I think he's got the right mana floating now, so a little bit of help there. Now here's the Mox. Yeah, because then he sacrificed Chromatic Star. So, okay, we're all good. Float a green, sacrifice the Mox. Can he keep it going? There's a Terrarion. That's going to be a mana to play, so he's down to 5, up to 7. That's going to get back Mox, of course, but he does get to draw a card. He's going to play the Mox. He will add a green. He will sack the Mox. We've seen this play so many times here from Charles Sears. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Can he keep going? Now, I see an EE.
So, yeah, he can try to keep growing by cashing in the Scrap Trawler.
Aha.
Rebuy the Ichor Wellspring, which is good for 2 more cards.
Okay, and keep going that way.
And keep going that way.
Now, EE he can play for 0.
Yes.
And blow up all these tokens.
Yeah, he can buy himself another turn that way.
Mm-hmm. He's got all this mana floating. It does make you wonder if he's supposed to try to keep going or not. Lot of mana here. Oh, interesting. So he's going to play Engineered Explosives for a bunch of mana, but the Sunburst is still going to be 0. And as we take a look at Sanctum of Ugin, it says whenever you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater. So he's going to play the EE for 7. Sunburst is still going to be 0 because no colored mana.
Yep.
Which means he can take care of these annoying spirit tokens, but he also gets to trigger the Sanctum, go get himself a Mirror Retriever, and keep this party rolling.
Yeah, and I think it's possible that Engineered Explosives just gets turned into 2 mana at some point here. It's kind of an insurance policy for him right now where he can leave it on the battlefield for as long as possible.
Now let's take a look at Mirror Retriever one more time so we can figure out what he's going to do with this. So Mirror Retriever says whenever Mirror Retriever is put in your graveyard from play, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So he returns 2 artifacts, 1 from the Scrap Trawler activation and 1 from the Mirror Retriever. So he's going to get to keep moving along here. Draw a card. Mox enters. Add. Sacrifice. Think of Mox as +3 mana in situations like this. It's probably easier just to think of it that way. So away the Mox goes. Wellspring is going to cost 2. He'll draw a card from the enters the battlefield trigger. Now he'll sacrifice a Wellspring. He gets 2 mana. He's going to return Chromatic Star. He's got to remember to draw from that Wellspring. And he does. A lot of triggers here, so you don't want to forget. There's a Chromatic Star. That's going to cost 1. Now he'll sacrifice that, get back Mox, and he's going to get 2 mana from that and draw a card. So
there's just so many moving parts.
It's a lot. It's a lot. No doubt about it. Mox, plus 3 mana. Sack it. 1 for a green, of course, 2 colorless. So up to 15 mana. Play a star. Sack the star. Get the Mox. Draw a card. Now this is the problem, Craig. Flooding.
Well, it is and it isn't. We saw him just cycle through so many cards in his deck, and he does still have that scrap trawler that he can cash in if he wants to. Obviously, the ideal thing for him through this process would have been to hit a second scrap trawler.
Of course.
And then it's just like go off for days. But the scrap trawler can get back that mirror retriever.
Yep.
And then the mirror retriever can get back Nicker Wellspring, and through this process he can draw another 2 or 3 cards.
Yeah, probably 3 min because of Wellspring, sacrifice Wellspring and Star.
Well,
he wouldn't get back to Star.
Yeah, the scrap trawler is not on the board anymore.
True. That's true. But Wellspring's the most cards.
Yeah, 2 cards out of a Wellspring.
And I think when you're in a situation like this, you're committed. You just have to keep going. I don't think the option of, like, okay, sacrifice EE, stop, try to go next turn. I don't think that's an option at this point. I think you just have to try to keep going.
Or there's Oh, it's so complicated. I don't have a whole ton of experience with this deck. If he sacrifices the scrap trawler, gets back the retriever. No, that's not gonna. There's too many options.
There's a lot of them, and Charles is trying to figure out the best one now too. But what ended up happening during this sequence while he was trying to go off is he just started drawing a lot of lands. There's a lot of Groves in his hand, Sanctum Vuken in his hand. He hasn't found the second scrap trawler, like you mentioned. Hasn't run himself into an Ancient Stirrings.
Yep.
I know he's got 2 of those in his graveyard at this point.
Well, and the card that would have made it super easy is just hitting the Emrakul.
That generally makes things easier.
Yes.
He's going to sacrifice EE, blow up tokens. Okay. Is he thinking about passing? He is? Okay. Fair enough. Let's go over to Coval.
All right, so he's saying I have a better chance of going off next turn with these 2 cards in play than winning just with the top 2 cards in my library.
That's what he's saying. Here comes Bloodghast, which has been pumped up by Sorin. It's not a lethal attack, though. Brian keeps being 1 point short.
Yes.
Off lethal.
Just super close.
Yes. All right, Bloodghast is going to block. Mirror Retriever is going to come back. And it looks like maybe he hasn't activated the Sorin just yet. Fetid Heat's going to get back Bloodghast. He's going to minus Sorin to make a Vampire token. Follow up. Leyline of the Void. That's actually relevant.
It's good, but it's not insane because there's already so many targets in the graveyard for Charles.
Yeah, but now it's just a bunch of one-shots.
Yes, but there are plenty of one-shots. You know, he has multiple 0 casting cost artifacts to get back, piles of 1 casting cost, several 2 casting cost. He can still loop a lot of things here.
The big problem here, I think, for Charles is just without a scrap trawler.
Yeah, maybe he can't loop a lot of things here. Maybe I'm just mistaken.
Yeah, like he can cast a Mirror Retriever,
but it doesn't die anymore. That's the big thing. Is the artifacts are no longer going to the graveyard to trigger scrap trawler and the Mirror Retriever.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah, you'll have Chromatic Star and Terraria. They won't trigger either. Leyline of the Void, hard cast.
Yeah, that was a good one there.
Yeah, pretty good draw, actually.
And it looks like we're going to get a 3rd game of this excitement.
I think so.
And it also looks like Charles really needed to just try to win last turn.
Yeah, just try to keep going.
Just roll the dice for the top 2 cards.
Well, there's Mirror Retriever. I don't know if he knows that losing the Mirror Retriever right now It's not going to the graveyard, my friend. Exiled. That's 2 mana. No, Leyline says your creature exiled. It does not get into a graveyard from play. And you're going to be learning that the hard way, unfortunately, Charles Sears.
And I think we'll be moving along now.
Yeah, because that's basically 2 mana. Sacrifice to get 2 mana, so I mean he still has his 2 mana. Sure, you see the facial expression. Yeah, I can't beat the ley line now. So Brian Coval's going to win game number 2 here over Charles Sears. Black-White Smallpox Ironworks combo, getting ready for a 3rd and final one. And what that demonstrates to me, Craig, is Leyline real good against this deck.
Leyline is super good, but I thought Charles was going to win that turn. He looked at least a third of his deck. He probably looked at about 20 cards in that turn. I mean, the idea of just not finding the payoff that you need in 20 cards of your deck is just very unlikely to me.
Yeah, well, and the tough part, too, is, he thought quite a bit about, am I supposed to keep going?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to sacrifice the Scrap Trawler, which is definitely my best card? I've got all this mana floating. What happens if I would have kept going? Well, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. He decided to stop, and Leyline showed up, and that was game over. So Brian Coval might be going back to the drawing board here. Charles Sears does not appear to be at this stage of things. I am curious if Coval on the draw wants something like a Fulminator Mage.
Not as good. I still think his best lines are just blowing up some lands while he has a few creatures on the board. It's definitely much better for Charles Sears here with his Ironworks deck to be on the play. He can go turn 2 Mana Rock before his opponent can blow up any of his lands, and that'll just keep him ahead for the rest of the game.
Well, you see the options there for both players. They're shuffling up pretty quickly here, so let's talk about the StarCityGames.com YouTube page where you can go back and watch the replays of this tournament, SCG Syracuse last weekend, and a whole bunch of creative content like Split Second hosted by Star City's own Jeremy Knoll, the Versus Series with Brad Nelson, Todd Anderson, Tom Ross, Ross Merriam, and Todd Stevens. You've got Commander Versus with Jeremy Knoll once again. And we've also got Jonathan Suarez, the American Dream, Stephen Green, and Justin Parnell. We got Magic Online playtesting with Sam Black, Jerry Thompson, Ari Lack, Sean McLaren, and many more. And we got the best of the SCG Tour. So much more. Subscribe today at youtube.com/StarCityGames.
When are you guys going to get some good players over there creating content for you?
Working on it.
Okay.
Working on it. That's for sure. You're watching Brian Coval, your invitational champion. He is on your right. Charles Sears is on your left. Black-White Smallpox Ironworks combo here in round number 3. We got a little over 450 players in attendance here in the River City. That's Richmond, Virginia. And we got a density of very, very good players here in the SCG Tour. Not the turnout that we saw in Syracuse, but we are going to have some really great players run into each other a lot this weekend, so it should be fun to watch. It's a Tendo Ice Bridge. Going to start things off here for Charles Sears. Don't see that one a ton.
Not a whole lot.
That is a Thoughtseize off of an Urborg, and we'll see exactly what Charles is working with. Again, it's a 1-lander with a Terrarian, a Hangerback Walker, an Engineer Explosives, a Mirror Retriever, and the namesake of the deck, Crarkland Ironworks.
And another interesting decision. Do you take the Ironworks out of this hand? Or do you take this Terrarian that can just cycle for another card?
I'm taking Ironworks. It's not called Terrarian combo.
What does it say under Charles' name there?
It's not called Terrarian combo. Terrarian.
Terrarian combo.
No, that's not what it says.
Well, we'll work on getting that changed so that we get the right thing on the title line here.
For our viewers at home. It's actually Ramunap combo.
Oh.
That's what it is.
Dude, you showed up with Ramunap.
1 for 1.
Yeah, nailed it. Let's leave that on the back burner now.
Okay, all right.
And
don't have to bring it up ever again.
We'll go out a winner.
Mirror Retriever is going to bite the dust. Chromatic Sphere, the draw. Charles Sears is going to sacrifice, a sphere on the battlefield.
Get a green mana.
Picked up a Tezzeret. We're a long way from that one. Pass the turn back. Is it time for a Smallpox? Oh, this is Flagstones, Bloodghast. Not the crazy Smallpox value, unfortunately, there for Brian. Looks like maybe a Darksteel Citadel may have been the draw. Yes, it is.
Yep, that's an important one. We'll have a game here.
You see Terrarion, Engineer Explosives, KCI all in hand. Going to start by sacrificing the sphere, draw a card, probably floating a green. Ancient Stirrings the draw. There is Ancient Stirrings. Top 5. We're going to take a look. Pick a colorless card as we go. Let's see what Sears will select. Don't have a great idea of what he's looking at, but he might be on the hunt for a 3rd land here. Inventor's Fair wouldn't be a bad one. It's a pretty important piece to the deck.
How do you feel about combo? Is this a deck that you would ever show up with to an event?
Like this Ironworks combo deck?
Yeah.
I doubt it, but
pretty unlikely.
But I mean, I like combo decks in general.
Okay, how about the Storm deck? To me, the Storm deck is a pretty similar deck. They're both just like, let me get to turn 4, and I'm going to have this combo that utilizes my graveyard, and I'm going to win the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't play combo a ton. Like, I've played Storm before. It's just not really my thing. I have no problem with combo existing. I actually kind of like when it exists because it's a different challenge instead of mid-range mirrors or aggro mirrors all day. Like it's a new element to the game, which I think is pretty cool. But just not what I really like to pilot, unless the combo deck is like so busted that you have to play it.
Sure.
I don't really get that much enjoyment out of playing combo decks. They're smallpox.
It's always a good time for a smallpox.
Yes, and especially when you have a Flagstone's Trocare on the board and a Bloodghast.
It comes right back.
So each player is going to lose a life. They'll discard a card. Brian will sacrifice his Bloodghast. Charles doesn't have anything to sacrifice. And then Brian will sacrifice his Flagstones, which means he's lost nothing at all. So Brian discarded a Godless Shrine. He's going to get his Flagstones trigger, which is going to get a land, which is likely a Godless Shrine, which means that Bloodghast is going to come back from the landfall trigger. That's how you build a deck right there.
Yeah, I didn't realize smallpox was only one-sided.
It is here. That's for sure. Brian doesn't even need that Godless Shrine that was in his hand. It's like he discarded nothing. And who cares about his life in this matchup? Godless Shrine, the land he's going to get from the Flagstones, predictably. He'll play another Flagstones. Good for the next smallpox.
Sure. Have it lined up.
Yeah. And away we go. Back to Charles Sears, who opted to sacrifice his Darksteel Citadel as opposed to his Tendo Icebridge. Perhaps he feels he needs a little more colored mana. Inventor's Fair, the land for the turn. Now he'll sacrifice a Terrarium. Or will he? He can't use the Mox, right. Doesn't have Metalcraft. So here's Hangerback Walker. Now he can use the Mox. Here's a Hangerback Walker for 1.
Yep, no Darksteel Citadel.
Yep, that hurts. Let's go back to Brian. In comes Bloodghast. Basically a free roll here. Hangerback Walker says, I'm not going to block. So 2 more damage is going to come across. A Fetid Heath. And now the question is, does Brian Coval have one of his many Planeswalkers? He has so many in his deck. 4 Liliana the Veil, 3 Gideon Allied Zendikar, 2 Sorin Silent Visitor, at least in his main deck configuration.
Yeah, probably some changes after board here.
There's Liliana. Elevator going up. Both players will discard a card. Brian very ready to discard a land. For Charles, he's got to decide between Tezzeret or KCI. He's going to discard KCI. Now he needs a land to be able to play Tezzeret. Let's see what he draws. Nature's Claim.
A little awkward here.
Yep. Could backdoor into a land off of the Terrarium. However, he'd want to use the Mox now.
And
he misses Inventor's Fair too. So
a lot going on here.
Yeah, there are a lot of triggers with this deck. There's a lot to keep up with. But if he's able to get Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas on the battlefield right now, it's pretty good.
Let's take a look at Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas, because
pretty good idea.
It's not the most common card to see.
Looks like he's going to go for it with Terrarium. I wouldn't be surprised to see blue-black be added. 4 mana, 3 loyalty. You plus it, you can look at the top 5 cards, take an artifact card. The -1 makes him 5/5 artifact creatures. Did he spike it, though, is the question. It's a... Oh, no!
So close.
It's a Mox!
Oh, what a tease.
So, sort of, but not really.
He will briefly have Metalcraft.
Yeah. His Metalcraft is off. If he plays the Mox, it will be off again. So now all Charles can do is pass the turn over to Brian. That darn Tendo Ice Bridge. If only it were Darksteel Citadel.
Yep.
Looks like Sears may have sacrificed the wrong land to that Smallpox. Didn't know it then, certainly knows it now, as Coval's going to tick up his Liliana. Sears may, I think he's got to discard that Nature's Claim.
Yeah, I'm fine with losing the Nature's Claim at this point in the game. You got to be worrying about trying to beat all of these things you're already looking at.
Yeah. Here's a cast out on Hangerback Walker.
Ugh, really wish we had that Nature's Claim right now.
Well, he still has it. He discarded the mod.
Sure. We might want to just blow up our guy, gain 4 life, and be left with the 1/1 flyer.
I think that might be where we're at.
Which he really wanted to get 2 little guys out of this card this turn.
Because blowing up cast out after it takes Hangerback Walker doesn't do anything.
No, yeah.
So I think he's forced to do this, which is Nature's Claim his own Hangerback Walker. Gets to 4 life, which means there are going to be plenty of turns left in this game. And now he'll get a Thopter. Now here comes Bloodghast, which is not going to be blocked predictably. We'll get Charles Sears a Thopter token out there in just a moment.
Oh, we got Thopter tokens.
There will be no Inventor's Fair life gain trigger. So Charles, nothing to worry about there. But your Mox Opal isn't on, and you need a Darksteel Citadel pretty bad right now.
Yeah, the Citadel is the big one.
Academy Ruins kind of a stinker right now.
Just another tease. It's a mana source, but he doesn't have the blue to put something on top.
And this is tough. If you play that, what ends up happening is now he's going to discard his Tezzeret, which he's prioritized so highly. So let's go back over to Coval, who has done a nice job of exhausting Charles Sears' hand, which is what his deck is trying to do, Craig.
Well, and Coval has 2 decisions to make here. It was which way to go with Liliana. It was either, do I want the last card out of his hand, which I like, but even taking it down and taking care of the Thopter means you're turning off this Mox Opal for a really long time. I like that line as well.
Lingering Soul is going to be recast from the graveyard. So now he's got Liliana defended. That Mox Opal very far away from being turned on. Going to need to get some good draws here, will Charles Sears, and he's going to start with a Scrap Trawler, not the worst draw. We head back over to Brian, who'll draw a card with a Smallpox deck. Keep in mind the clock here, folks. We're under 3 minutes. Time could play a factor as he's going to come across with 2 Bloodghast and 2 Spirit tokens. It's an attack for 6.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to have the time to finish this match. I can't imagine that this takes, another 6 turns. And with the way the Ironworks combo deck operates, it just needs 1 turn to do everything. Ooh.
Well, things may have just gotten a lot easier here for Brian Cole, because that's a timely Stony Silence off the top of the deck. Mox Opal, you're all done for the rest of this game. Inventor's Fair will trigger, so long as Charles does remember, because he does have 3 artifacts, and a Thopter, a Scrap Trawler, and that Mox Opal.
But yeah, Charles is just feeling it from every direction here. He's got the creatures that are pressuring his life total. There's the Liliana that might ultimate next turn. The Stony Silence was just even more backbreaking. You kick a man while he's down. The Mox Opal has been teasing him most of this game.
Ichor Wellspring will allow Charles to draw a card.
Good news, your Mox Opal is now on again.
Yes, it's back and ready to roll.
Except
not so much.
Not so ready to roll.
We go back over to Brian. He will draw a card. He's empty-handed, but truthfully, that's kind of where he wants to be, because that means he's got a Liliana going and he's exhausted his opponent's resources. 2 Bloodcast, 2 Thopter tokens going to come in yet again. And at least in Modern, this is the kind of game that Brian Coval likes to play. It reminds you a little bit of his Death and Taxes win at the Invitational, and just kind of grinding out the opponent.
Yeah, just fun policing people.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? No, I'm not going to let you do that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to just tax your resources all over the place. Go after your hand, go after your board a little bit. I have cards that affect your graveyard. And, no fun.
No fun at all. Well, fun for him.
Yeah, winning is usually fun, right?
Winning is generally a good time.
Yeah, what's more fun than winning?
Basically nothing. Thopter looks like it's ready to block here. Scrap Trawler may as well.
And this Scrap Trawler could get engineered explosives back, but he doesn't have the colored sources to set it on 2 in order to get Stony Silence, and he couldn't sacrifice it in the face of the Stony Silence
Can't
anyway.
sacrifice it anyway.
Like just so many problems here.
Yeah. Thopter's going to block a Spirit. Scrap Trawler's going to block a Bloodghast. I'm sure we'll see that Bloodghast again soon enough. Going to get back a Hangerback Walker. That's a land. It's going to enter the battlefield tapped to get back the Bloodghast. Liliana. Well, we'll see how Brian wants to use it as that's time in the round.
Yeah, I think with no more time left, you just blow it up. You take half your opponent's permanents right here, and you just leave them so hamstrung. You know, you're going to let him draw an extra card potentially from the Ichor Wellspring.
Looks like he's going to tick up this turn, then he might ultimate next turn. Ancient Stirring is going to bite the dust because that's a card that Charles cannot cast. It's turn 1 of extra turns. There's a Hangerback Walker for 1.
Charles just with his fingernails trying to hang on here.
He is trying to hang on as we go to turn number 2. Brian with a discard spell. There goes Nature's Claim. Gonna tick down Liliana. So there goes Hangerback Walker, gonna get a Thopter token. Here come the Knuckleheads. I think the block is pretty easy. You block the Bloodghast, yep. You take 3, you go down to 3, and I think Coval should be able to cross the finish line. Let's see what Sears draws.
And it's looking like he may have missed that fair once or twice this game.
That ends up mattering.
And it ends up mattering here.
Only 2 artifacts on the battlefield right now. Did he draw another Hangerback Walker? No, he drew Ichor Wellspring. That's a redraw. Remember, Mox doesn't tap for mana right now. Pass that turn back over to Brian. Brian will draw. If he finds a land, it gets a little bit easier because he gets a Bloodghast back with haste.
Yep.
There is a land in Marsh Flats. Tick up Liliana. Make your opponent discard a card. Can't cast that. Stony Silence, my friend. It's coming from every angle, Charles.
Charles thought he... Yeah.
That's going to do it. Brian Coval's going to win this match over Charles Sears. Black-White Smallpox going to win a game here and a match over Ironworks Combo. Your invitational champion, Brian Coval, is 3-0 here in Richmond.
Just Captain Fun Police, you know? Shows up with his badge,